5 years of growing food in Hungary. What I wish I knew. So what does 5 years of growing my own food here in Hungary look like? Well, this is it. It's my little slice of heaven, just bursting with life. But let me tell you, this paradise was born from some seriously harsh lessons and a completely very blank canvas. I showed up here with a dream of overflowing harvest baskets and pantry shelves lined with jars of preserves. I remember aiming to be able to eat an evening meal that consisted of 75% homegrown produce. What I got was a crash course in humility taught by the Hungarian climate itself, from sudden vicious frosts that annihilated my seedlings overnight to summer droughts that baked the earth into mud bricks. I have made so many mistakes. These aren't just tips, they are hard-won secrets. These are the 5 things I wish with all my heart that someone had told me when I first plunged my hands into this soil. Lesson number 1, the treachery of the false spring. The first lesson Hungary taught me was probably the cruelest. It's the siren song of the false spring. You get a week, maybe 10 days in March where the sun feels warm on your skin. The birds are singing, the soil is warming up, and every fiber of your being just screams, it's time to plant. In my first year, I listened to that voice. I was so eager. I put out dozens of beautiful tomato, pepper, and cucumber seedlings I'd lovingly raised from seed. They looked perfect. For a week they were, and then it happened. A single night. The forecast said it might get cold, but I was naive. I woke up to a horror show. Every single one of my tender plants was black, limp, and dead. A month of work gone in a few hours. The spring frosts here are no joke, and they can be devastating for agriculture. The climate is changing, making fruit trees and tender plants even more vulnerable when a cold snap returns after they've started to bud. So what's the secret I wish I knew? Patience and a healthy dose of paranoia. I learned to completely ignore that first warm spell. Now I wait until much later in April, sometimes even early May, to plan out my most vulnerable crops. And I am prepared. My new best friend is a new purpose-built greenhouse where I can protect my babies in a controlled environment until the time is right. It's a simple thing, but it's the difference between life and death for a young garden. The false spring will try to fool you every single year. Don't fall for it. Lesson number 2, the great summer thirst. Once you survive the frost of spring, you face your next great adversary, the summer sun. The continental climate here doesn't just bring warmth. It brings intense baking heat and increasingly severe drought. Recent years have seen brutal droughts ravage the country, depleting groundwater and turning farmland into dust. I remember my second summer, standing in my garden with a hose, watering every single day, only to watch the water sit on top of the solid soil before evaporating in the heat. The plants were wilting, the ground was cracking. It felt like a losing battle. The secret I had to learn the hard way was changing how I thought about water entirely. I learned that a daily surface sprinkle is worse than useless. It encourages shallow roots and just wastes precious water. The solution I found has 3 parts: water deeply, mulch heavily, and harvest the rain. First, deep watering. Instead of a light daily sprinkle, I now give my garden beds a deep, thorough soaking once or twice a week. I recently installed a new irrigation system using something called a water tape. Every 10 centimeters, the hose is perforated, allowing water to drop straight onto where it is needed. This encourages the roots to grow deep down into the soil, seeking out moisture where they're protected from the sun's glare. Second, mulch is a miracle. After that deep watering, I cover the soil with a thick blanket of straw, wood chips, or compost. This layer protects the soil from the sun, dramatically reducing evaporation and keeping everything cooler with higher moisture levels for days. It also smothers the weeds that are competing for that same water. But I do let some weeds grow taller. I have found that certain plants benefit from this, in particular squash plants like the butternuts and melons. But I also keep an eye on them because I don't want them to go to seed, so I pull them up and they are a great addition to the compost. And finally, harvesting rainwater. An average roof can collect thousands of litres of water a year, even with Hungary's moderate rainfall. I started small, with a single barrel hooked up to a downspout, and I've just expanded from there. This free soft water is perfect for the garden, and it cuts your reliance on the tap during the driest months. You can't fight the Hungarian summer, but you can learn to work with the water you have. It's all about making every single drop count. Lesson number 3, the soil is everything. When I first arrived, I saw land. I saw a place to put plants. I didn't really see the soil. My particular patch of earth was quite sandy. In my ignorance, I just dug holes, plopped my plants in, and expected them to thrive. The results were not great because the water and nutrients just vanished through it like a sieve. In the summer heat, it became a desert and my plants were constantly thirsty and underfed. The secret I had to learn was that I wasn't a plant grower. Instead, I was a soil grower. The health and structure of your soil determines everything. By adopting the no-dig method, my very first job here was simply to make enough compost to start. So, having identified the location I got going, and it took an entire year. Compost became my obsession. Every kitchen scrap, every leaf, every grass clipping went into the pile. I also bought some in to begin with too. Once I finally had enough, I didn't dig it in. Instead, I layered that beautiful dark compost thickly on top of my existing soil. This top layer started to transform the ground beneath it. The organic matter acts like a sponge, holding onto water and nutrients that would otherwise just wash straight through the sand, and it provided a perfect medium for roots to thrive in. It also acts like a sponge, holding onto water during dry spells and releasing it as the plants need it. I've also noticed a big increase in soil life, and now there are all kinds of insects and the all-important worms, and these in turn are bringing more birds too. I also discovered the magic of cover crops. In the fall, after my main crops were harvested, I started sowing things like mustard. These crops protect the soil from winter erosion. Then, when you chop them down in the spring, their roots decompose in place, adding even more organic matter and creating channels deep in the soil. It's not a quick fix. Building good soil takes years, but the difference is staggering. My soil is now darker, crumblier, and full of life. The worms are back. And the plants, they're thriving in a way I never thought possible in that first frustrating year. Don't just feed your plants, build the living soil that will feed them for you. If these hard-won lessons are hitting home and maybe you're seeing some of your own struggles here, consider subscribing to the channel. There are always more lessons to learn and we can learn them together. Lesson number 4, right plant, right place, right country. In my first couple of years, my garden was a monument to my own stubbornness. I tried to grow things I missed from home, things I saw in gardening magazines from completely different climates. Some of them worked, but a lot of them just struggled, falling prey to pests or simply failing to thrive in the heat or the cold. I was trying to force my will onto the garden instead of listening to what the garden wanted to grow. Hungary has a rich agricultural heritage for a reason. There are specific varieties of vegetables and fruits that have been grown here for centuries because they are perfectly adapted to this specific place. Think of the famous Markoi onions or the huge variety of Hungarian peppers from sweet to fiery. These aren't just novelties, they're survivors. They are genetically programmed to handle this climate's challenges. The secret was simple. Embrace what's already here. I started seeking out local seed varieties from small suppliers and other gardeners. I planted a number of Hungarian cherry tomatoes, paprika peppers, and a cucumber variety that just laughs at the summer heat. The difference was night and day. These plants didn't just survive, they flourished. They were more resistant to local pests and diseases, and their flavour was incredible. This doesn't mean you can't experiment, I still do. At the core of my garden, the reliable backbone that ensures I have a harvest no matter what, is now made up of these proven local varieties. It's about finding the path of least resistance. Stop fighting your climate and start choosing the plants that have already adapted to it. Your gardening life will get so much easier and so much more successful. Lesson number 5, you're not alone in this. For the first year or two, I felt completely isolated in my struggles. I'd see my neighbours' seemingly effortless gardens and feel like a total failure. I didn't speak the language well enough to ask for detailed advice, and my problems felt unique to my little plot of land. I was troubleshooting through sheer lonely trial and error. And let's be honest, it was mostly error. This was my biggest mistake. The final and most important secret I learned is that you're not alone. Gardening knowledge is community knowledge. Hungary has a deep-rooted culture of home gardening and self-sufficiency, born from both history and necessity. The knowledge you need is all around you. You just have to learn how to see it. I started by just watching. I observed my neighbours from afar and paid close attention to other gardens on my walks. It was a silent education. I saw when they planted their seedlings out, what they used to mulch their beds, and which plants were thriving in their gardens. I learned by seeing what worked for others in my immediate area. An elderly neighbour's flourishing fruit trees, covered at just the right time, taught me when to protect my own from frost. Seeing a particular tomato variety in garden after garden prompted me to seek out the seeds for myself. I learned more from quiet observation than I ever did from a book. Don't let pride or shyness keep you isolated. The collective wisdom of the gardening community is your single greatest resource, even if you tap into it through quiet observation. The lessons are there in the gardens all around you. People's successes and failures are on display. All you have to do is look. So there you have it, 5 years of mistakes, frustrations, and finally successes, all distilled into 5 lessons. Let's do a quick recap. Respect the false spring and its late frosts. Manage your water with deep soaks and heavy mulch. Build your soil. Don't just feed your plants. Choose local, adapted varieties that to grow where you live. And finally, learn from the community of gardeners all around you. Gardening in Hungary is a challenge. It will absolutely test your patience and your resolve with its climate extremes. But that struggle is what makes the reward so incredibly sweet. The taste of a sun-warmed tomato from your own garden, the satisfaction of a pantry stocked with food you grew yourself. Those things are worth every single bit of the effort. It's a journey, and after 5 years, I feel like I'm only just beginning to understand the beautiful, complex rhythm of this land. If you're gardening in Hungary or a similar climate, I would love to hear the biggest lesson you've learnt. Please share it in the comments below. We all have something to teach, and we all have so much more to learn. Thanks for joining me on this journey. Subscribe for more practical tips as I continue to learn and grow on my Hungarian homestead. Now, if you'll excuse me, I think I have some tomatoes to pick.